welcome back to the channel. Back with another gaming video. Today I'm playing Car Mechanic Simulator 2021. This will be the very first video in this game series. If this is something you enjoy, please consider subscribing. I love this game. I love cars. I've always been into cars. I used to build and drag race some old school Mopar muscle cars, me and my brother. So this game series will just be me restoring different cars and telling some old racing stories and whatnot while I'm doing it. I wanted to show you guys, well, first this video is going to be me building the engine for this Dodge Challenger Hellcat. I'll probably assemble the engine and then put it in, and that'll be the first video. And then on the next video I'll finish everything else up and finish the car. I wanted to show you guys the car that I restored recently. It's a 78 Chrysler Cordoba. When I was like 14 to 16 roughly, my parents had a 79 Cordoba. So I painted this one and put the same wheels on it and everything that our car had. It was actually going to be my very first car, which I was thrilled. I really liked that car. It was a cruiser and it was really comfortable. Had a really reliable 318 small block with an automatic that had overdrive. It had dual exhaust. It was a clean car. We never had any problems with that car at all. But I ended up with a much nicer car, and I'll tell you about that in just a few minutes. I'm going to go in back part of the shop here where the engine stand is and start assembling this Hemi Hellcat engine. I want to keep this video less than 30 minutes. My whole life I've been into cars. Like when I was a kid, I had, a Hot Wheel collection, and I've always been into radio control cars. Anything that had to do with cars and racing or anything like that. I've always, been into it. And so has my family. Like my dad, he never raced cars or built engines or anything. But he always bought cars to fix up and flip them to make $1 here, a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there, whatever he could make. That was about the extent of my dad's, what he did with cars, But as a kid, I was always out in the garage helping him, tinkering with whatever he was doing and learning about stuff. I always loved it when he bought a car and we would be out in the garage fixing on it and messing with it, cleaning it up, trying to make a few dollars. My older brother, one of my older brothers, Bill, he was always really into cars. He's 11 years older than me. When I was like 9, 10, whatever, he had this, and he still has it to this day. It's restored now. It's a 70 Plymouth Roadrunner, was his very first car. Him and his friends built a 440 for it. Because when he got it, it had no engine or nothing. It was just a shell pretty much. They built a 440 and put in it. He got it running for a very short time, and me and him drove it like 1/8 of a mile. and something happened with it. It had something to do with the wiring, if I remember right. It had serious wiring problems, so he never really got everything ironed out and got it running right. But we drove it like an eighth of a mile down to the car wash, and it broke down, and he finally got it started, and we drove it home. And that was the only time it ever drove. He parked it for like 35 years after that until about 6 or 7 years ago, he finally restored it. Then he ended up getting a 73 Plymouth Barracuda, which he also still has. He put the 440 in that. And it was a nice engine. It had ported and polished heads that he got from a friend of his. It had a tunnel ram with two Holley 450 4-barrel carburetors that always stuck out of the hood. I always thought that was so cool when I was a kid. It just looked cool, you know, it was really impressive looking. It wasn't super fast. It was like a mid 12-second quarter mile street car. We're talking the mid 80s, you know, 12-second street car, 73 CUDA. That was awesome. It still is awesome, but even more so back then. I've got a picture of my brother's car sitting at Frankie's Pizza here in Tucson, Arizona, on Speedway Boulevard, where everybody used to cruise. That was 1986. I was 11 years old when that picture was taken. So he was already cruising Speedway and racing at the illegals every weekend. I just thought it was the coolest car ever when I was a kid. So that really got me into cars from a young age, even more so than I already was. Then when I was like 12 or 13, I really started spending more time with my brother Bill and hanging out with him when he was working on his car. So I started learning more and more and more about him and helping more and more. Then when I was like 15 or so, I started working at the family business, which is a tire shop that our uncle opened back in 1980 here in Tucson, called R&G Tire. So I was working with my brother when I was 15. That's about the time that he started letting me go with him to cruise Speedway on the weekends. So we would go out in his 73 Plymouth Barracuda, tunnel ram sticking out of the hood, 488 posi, 3500 stall converter, and, you know, cruise Speedway, and then we would go race at the illegals. And being 15, you know, 15, 16 years old doing that, I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. It was such a blast. I have so many awesome memories from that. And then since I was working at the shop since I was 15, you know, I had a few dollars here and there, and I started buying parts because I knew that I was going to be getting something that I could build a 440, just like my brother's car had, because I was all about Mopar, and I still am 100% Mopar. I didn't know what it was going to be. I just knew that I was getting something Mopar, and it was getting a 440. So I started buying parts before I even had a car, my license, or anything. I bought a set of 9-to-1 forged flat top TRW pistons. I bought a 509 292 Mopar Performance purple shaft cam kit out of a PAW catalog. I just had that stuff laying around in my room, just waiting. You know, I just accumulating parts, ready to build an engine, learn more and more, and build a big block for something so I could go race with my brother. Like I said, my parents were talking about giving me the Chrysler Cordoba. At no point was I planning on putting a 440 in that. It was too big, too heavy, and it just wasn't a drag car. That was just a boat and a cruiser, and I liked it. At least it was a, you know, a Plymouth or Chrysler product. At least it was a Mopar. Didn't matter, Dodge, Plymouth, Chrysler, whatever. Mopar is all I cared. Well, when I was like 16, my dad had this old 71 Ford Ranchero. It had a rebuilt 400 and a camper shell. It was a nice car, needed paint, but it was real straight and it ran really good. It was going to be either that car or the Chrysler Cordoba, pretty much, that they were kind of giving me their choice. One other car that was possibly going to be mine was my dad had a 63 Chrysler Chrysler New Yorker. That's the one I really wanted because it was nice. And it already had a big block in it. It was a 413. I really wanted that car. It had suicide doors, push button automatic, 727 torque flight. And that thing was actually pretty fast for what it was. You know, all bone stock, just an old boat. But it rode really nice and it looked really cool. It was just so different. I really wanted that, but it needed a steering gearbox and we couldn't find one. I think that's what it was, if I remember right. And my dad looked around and couldn't find one. The steering was really sloppy and worn out. We tried to adjust it, you know, adjust the worm gear, whatever it's called. I can't remember. Trying to tighten up the steering, and it was worn out so bad it wouldn't. So they didn't want me to have that because they thought it was going to be too dangerous and too hard to get it fixed and blah, blah, blah. So it was either the Cordoba or the Ranchero. And I definitely wanted the Cordoba. Well, then my dad comes to me one day and he says, "Hey, some guy called today, wanted to trade me some kind of an old Dodge for my Ranchero." Because Dad had a for sale sign on the Ranchero. Since I wanted the Cordoba. So he's like, "Yeah, some guy called, wanted to trade me some kind of an old Dodge for my Ranchero. You want to go look at it with me?" I said, "Hell yeah." I was raring to go. Old Dodge, what? Right up my alley. So we drive across town here in Tucson. It was at some little mom and pop upholstery shop on the other side of town. Well, not on the other side of town, but I think it was on Stone and Glen, if I remember right. You know, it was a nice little drive from where we lived. And we get over there, go into this little mom and pop upholstery shop. talked to the guy, and he's like, yeah, the car's sitting out back. Just go down the alley here next to the building, and once you get around the back, it opens up into a little lot back there, and you can't miss it. It's bright yellow with black stripes. Oops, black stripes and a white vinyl top. Can't miss it. Go on around. I'll meet you back there. So me and Dad get in the car, and we drove around back, and as soon as it came into view, I knew exactly what it was, because it was my favorite car. It was a Dodge Challenger. I couldn't tell what year it was because I couldn't see the taillights. But as soon as we saw it, as soon as it came into view, I told my dad, word for word, I said, Dad, that's my car. And he kind of chuckled. He said, no, I can't do that. I got to get this. We're really low on money right now. I got to get this and flip it and make some money and blah, 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 blah. You know, he didn't like that idea. But I pretty much cut him off, and I said, well, Dad, none of that matters. I said, if I got to pay payments and buy this car, this is my car. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I should have told him, if I got to steal it, it's my car. Because that's about how I felt. So we went back and forth a few times. No, I can't do that. I got to make some money on this one. This is a money maker here. I got to get what I can out of it. Get the money, you know, I got to make the money while I can make it, type of thing. So we get back to it and get out of the car, and he's looking at it and talking to the guy, kicking the tires, you know how it is. And he's like, he asked the guy at one point, you know, does it run? Will it start up? The guy said, oh yeah, it runs great. It'll start right up. I just got to put a battery out of my pickup in it. So he went back around. Oh, that scared me. He went back around and pulled his pickup around back, pulled the battery out of it and stuck in it. When he tried to start it, it wouldn't do a thing. Wouldn't click, wouldn't turn, nothing. Not even a sound. And immediately I could see the disgust in my dad's face. I could see that he was like not happy at all. And he was ready to just get out of there. He wanted nothing to do with it when it wouldn't start. Well, thank God I had been helping my brother out, and I knew as much as I did, because my very first thought when it wouldn't start, it wouldn't click or anything, my first thought was the neutral safety switch. So I got on my back and slid up under it to check the side of the transmission, and no shit, sure enough, the neutral safety switch was unplugged. Just a simple little wire with a plug on the end that plugs into the side of the transmission. I plugged it in and it started right up. Started right up and ran like a sewing machine. It was a 318 with a 904 automatic. Had a console with a slapstick shifter. It was a special edition Challenger, so it had the rally dash with the tack and the clock and the dash. Just a beautiful car. And because the guy owned a upholstery shop, it had all brand new interior. Trying to get this done because I'm almost out of recording time on my clip champ. Yeah, it was just a really, really nice car. All new carpet, new headliner, all new seats. The headliner and the door panels and the seats were all white and black, brand new black carpet. Just a really, really nice car. So we drove it home. Transmission slipping, but it ran like a sewing machine. We got it home, and from day one, I just treated it like it was mine. I kept washing it, and Armor All and everything. Had it looking like new. And then a few months later, my 17th birthday came up, and my dad handed me the keys to it. Well, before I got my license at 18, within that year, me and my brother found an old lady that had a 71 Chrysler Newport that had a 440 with a 727 torque flight automatic, and it was just sitting in her yard, not running for like 5 or 6 years or longer. She she wanted to sell the whole car first. I talked her into selling me the engine and transmission out of it. She sold me the 440 and torque flight for $300. Like I said, I had a set of forged pistons and a cam kit. My brother had a set of 906 heads that were ported and polished that he gave me or sold me real cheap. He sold me a 3500 Hughes stall converter that he had in his car at one point. I stripped the 440 down, and it's like I said, I was working at the tire shop for 3 years, well, a little over 2 years already. We had an engine stand and an engine hoist and everything. I stripped it down and sent the block and the crank and rods to the machine shop. He paid $585 for me to get all the machine work done, which I ended up working off in labor, helping him with cars and stuff. You know, in the future after that, we did a bunch of stuff on cars that he restored and sold, partially restored and sold. Helped him swap out a few engines and transmissions, just a bunch of side work stuff, you know. So that was my very first car. Big block Dodge Challenger, 74 Challenger. 440 with a tunnel ram and 2 4-barrels. Had a 150 horse nitrous kit, 3500 stall converter, 391 posi. It was a cool car. It wasn't super fast because it was heavy and the engine was real mild. Low compression, hydraulic cam, you know, just a street car. I ended up taking it to Phoenix when I was 19. That was before we had a drag strip here. And that was 1994 I took it. And it ran a 1285 on the motor at 103 miles an hour. And on the bottle, it ran a 1203 at 113 miles an hour. Such a cool first car. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to call it quits on this video. On the next one, I'll get the engine installed and get the car finished. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave a like, leave a comment, share the video, and consider subscribing. There will be more to come. I appreciate all of you guys. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you on the next one.